Should you master the rules or break the rules in Dungeons & Dragons? How about both? Leaning more towards break the rules. Let's talk about it. So every new dungeon master out there, you're going to get one set of advice. Go master the core rules. Read them. Browse them. In my opinion, it's better to have a good understanding of all the rules and then ask your players simply this. Understand what your abilities and what your character can do. Then you tell me. And if you need to go verify later on, go do that. In the end, it doesn't matter how well you know the rules as long as you're playing a game. I don't care what anyone tells you. You don't have to know the rules. It helps you create environments by utilizing the rules to better tell the story you want to tell. Keep that in mind. Knowing the rules does not mean you have to hear for them, but it does help you craft a world because those rules provide you structure. Know them as well as you want to know them is the only correct answer, in my opinion. If breaking the rules means you get to create unique and interesting social dynamics and interactions that create amazing role-play stories, then break the rules. If using the rules allows you to create structure in your social engagements that creates tension that allows the players to have to follow and adhere to certain things that are happening in your society, use the rules. When it comes to storytelling, the overall goal is to craft a story. How you want to create and craft that story depends on you as the dungeon master. So many people will tell you this is common sense, but it's not. Telling you to both know the rules and break the rules is what gives a lot of players this icky feeling, or dungeon masters icky feeling, when they're new or don't know your table. You as the dungeon master know your table. Do you need to adhere to the rules? Are you even playing Dungeons & Dragons? That's up to you. You get to decide. However, if you remember one thing, if you're making a storytelling game and you have a core rule set that you're basing on the foundation of, just make sure you stick to that core set. Don't break the rules every single time for thematics and not allow your players to understand how to play your game that you're playing. If you're going to have rule variants, make sure that your players know the rule variant. If you're breaking the rules, make sure your players know when they need to know. We can have a whole nother conversation. If you break the rules as dungeon masters and your players never know about it and they love the story, you're not doing it wrong. Now, if they hate the story because you broke the rules, maybe you're doing it wrong. That one's still up for debate. Knowing the rules and breaking the rules comes down to the core player experience. In the end, no matter what anyone tells you, any rules lawyer, any content provider on this app, web, Reddit, anywhere, if they tell you doing it wrong, the only person wrong is them. If you use the rules to help your player experience, you're doing it right. If you break the rules to help the player experience, you're doing it right. And remember something, Dungeon Masters, you are a player too. The players table consists of any group of players and one dungeon master. But you as the dungeon master have a right to have fun as well. And sometimes us dungeon masters like to utilize rules to tell better stories. We utilize these rules to make for more amazing things. So just keep that in mind. If you're using the rules to tell a better story, then go for it. Use those rules, tell a better story. If breaking those rules helps you tell a story, break the rules. In the end, what matters is the player experience. However, consistency will create familiarity. The more familiar your players are with the rules and how they are, and knowing when they can or cannot break them helps with the storytelling. If you're breaking the rules all the time, there is no consistency, your players may become frustrated. It's food for thought, and it is a balancing act. The most important thing, whether it comes to breaking the rules or sticking to the rules, is consistency of what you decide. That consistency allows your players to both plan and react to the rules of the game. Because even though we are telling a collaborative storytelling, game, it is still exactly that, a game. And a game has rules. Whether you make them or the book makes them, just remember, there are rules for a reason. And some of us like rules, like myself, and some of us don't. If you're breaking rules as a DM, you have to maintain balance. And what I mean by that is all too often when you're breaking rules, balance will get swayed both out of the Dungeon Master's favor and into the Dungeon Master's favors. If your players are aware that you're breaking rules and all of a sudden their game becomes significantly harder, there's animosity there. Some players will react the same if a game becomes too easy if you're breaking the rules. And in the end, the rules are suggestions and guidelines, but as I've said in this whole video and series, consistency is the key. If you're consistent and you maintain balance, it doesn't have any bearing whether you're following the rules or breaking the rules, as long as the players have some level of consistency. There's a balancing act between both difficulty and fun. Some players like more fun. Some players like more difficulty. Some players find more difficulty more fun. Some players like there to be no rules so they can have freedom and creativity. A lot of players like to find their creativity in bending the rules without breaking them. All of those things are valid. So you as a dungeon master, number one, it's your table. The rules that you set forth are your rules. And if the players don't like it, they can go somewhere else. But keep that in mind too. If the only person you care about is you and not your players may choose to go somewhere else. It doesn't matter if you break the rules. It doesn't matter if you stay to the rules. There is no one to tell you how to play your game. But when you're finding other rules or variations of the rules, remember, always go back to the beginning. Always go back to the core rules and find that balance of understanding those rules to the best of your ability. Having a core foundation and reviewing the rules on a regular basis of any TTRPG you're playing will give you consistency, give you balance, and allow you to decide when to properly break those rules. So food for thought. There is no right answer other than continuing to grow and understand the rules better and better and better. There are rules that I've broken for so long that my broken rules come across as me telling people how to play the game, and I am wrong. That's okay too. So remember, don't just take my word for law, because 90% of the time I'm probably some level of wrong, at least on my table. Because I always have a little bit of the Richard flavor in any game I play, regardless of how strict those rules are. Now, if you're a dungeon master and you like to follow the rules, there can be such a thing as a rule-bending scenario, meaning a unique individual scenario where the physics of the world change for that scenario. This is an amazing way for you as the dungeon master to introduce a scene that doesn't fit within the core rules and tell your players, for this scene, for where we're at, this is how this rule functions. That allows for that scene to stand apart from the rest of the game. So that way you can make an exception for the rule of cool for that moment and then go back to the regular core way of playing. I love rule-bending scenes for those rule lawyers, those dice goblins that have to adhere but have that itch in the back of their brain that want to do something special, want to do something unique. Allow for yourself to have those rule-bending scenes even in a game dictated by iron core concrete rules as written. So guys, as always, remember, balance is the key, fun is the key. Do what you will with the rules at your table, but in the end, have a good time. Both you as the dungeon master and you as the player. And if you like, comment, subscribe, post, repost, do what you gotta do to help us grow this channel. And as always, we'll see you what time? We'll see you next time.